Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Tuesday, June 10th. So, what's the discussion going to be about today? So, I thought today would be what are the good reasons and the bad reasons for getting into business and becoming self employed? There's a lot of good reasons to do it, but you really have to have the basics in order to succeed at what you're trying to do, and money's not it. So, stay tuned. A lot of people have different reasons, right? Anyways, my name is Eric. Yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Tuesday, June 10th of 2025. And today we're talking about what are the good reasons to start your own business and what are the bad reasons. And the ones of you that normally watch my channel know that I fly by the seat of my pants. I don't have a script to look at. So everything you hear from me comes out of this pea brain. But I listen over and over and over again from people saying how great it would be if they could be their own boss and be self employed. And there are a lot of good things that come from it. I'm not going to say there's not, but there's also a lot of downside to it as well. You have to have a scorecard right in the middle. Put all the good things, all the bad things, all the good reasons to start your own business, and the bad things to starting your own business. And hopefully the good things outweigh the bad things, and that's how you decide. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot goes into it before you even open them doors. And even further back, there's a lot goes into it even before you take that next step of deciding that's what you want to do. And for you guys that have been with the channel for quite some time, you know that I'm a personal believer in starting something on the side, weekends and nights, and seeing where it goes. And if you want to get into small engine repair, I highly recommend that you do it weekends and nights or nights and weekends to get your feet wet. It's not to tell you how it's going to be, it's just to get your feet wet. Because right now, by doing that, you have the safety net, right? You have the safety net of another income coming in your day job, hopefully. And that's going to keep the budget on track. There's a big leap from extra money into the budget and looking for that business venture to cover your costs, to pay your salary, to pay your employees if you have employees. And I think you, Amos, can kind of chime in here when it comes to running a business. There are so many things that want your money going out. Everything from a mortgage to a lease to lights to the ones that do well are the ones that are in areas. I've seen this, and I think Danny Boy does it because his wife has mental health problems, but he created a business and kept it going out of his garage because he couldn't leave his wife home alone for extended periods of time. So my heart goes out to him because I know what it feels like. But instead of going out there and incurring a bunch of debt and leasing a building for a year and on, he converted over his garage, which was a lot cheaper than doing the other. Is he making a killing doing small engine repair? No. He's probably making more money off from YouTube and how many viewers he's got. And he's a good guy from what I've seen, and I would encourage you to seek him out and see what he's got to say about stuff. But he's pretty point on when it comes to repairing stuff. Not like me. Still got my Snap-on mug. But no, you have to, for me anyways, I feel like you need to test the water to see if this is something that you really like. What's going to happen is you take that leap and you decide, I'm going to become self-employed and start a business and then lose interest in it. What happens then? Well, you still got lease payments. You still got lights. You still got heat. The list goes on. And if your heart isn't in it, then it's not going to succeed. You are the leader of the pack. And even if you're self-employed all by yourself, you're definitely the leader of the pack, right? And how much you get done is going to be based on how much you decide to take on. The other mindset is, I'm tired of working for the big guys that are making all the money, and I want to make money for myself. Starting a business is not about making money. I got news for you. You're probably looking at the first 4 to 5 years breaking even, even if you break even. I'm serious. It takes time to build a customer base, a customer following that is willing to trust you with their piece of equipment. See, I see this too often, how people decide they're going to become self-employed and they build the business, but they forget the biggest aspect of building that business, and that is customers. Where are you going to get your customers? I don't care if you got fancy dancy printed t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and you got a beautiful building and the shop is immaculate and all new tools and this and that. That does not make a business profitable. It makes it look pretty, but it's not profitable. Not until you can get enough customers to come through that door on a daily basis, dropping stuff off and picking stuff up. And you may have a couple days where you don't have money coming in because the projects are being finished, and that's okay. But we're in it for the long game, right? And this is another place that I see so many of them fail, is failing to plan. Is, yes, May and June and into July, you're slammed, right? You're making all kinds of money. And the worst thing you can do is budget the rest of the year based on what you're doing in those 3 months. Why is that? Because the other months are quiet, are crickets, unless you do like what we've done, and that is find niche markets. And small engine repair doesn't have to be just lawnmowers. It could also be four-wheelers, side-by-sides, skidoos. But that's going to take a learning curve too. You can't screw somebody's side-by-side that they get in because it's having issues and they pay 28 grand for it, and you screw something up because you don't know how to do it. You can't fake it till you make it. And there's a ton of videos on YouTube. You could probably learn that way. But I would much rather have you learn that from another shop and gain experience as a mechanic before you decided to go out on your own in that area. We don't do it because there's too many variables there. Okay? We used to do it for like Massimo, Coleman, all the Chinese brands. And that was mainly because Tractor Supply decided to carry them, and we wanted to be that shop that Tractor Supply in our area, 5 different stores, could go to get their stuff fixed. So we learned quick. And were there some mishaps? Yes, but we covered it. I covered it. If there was any losses or whatever, that was on me. But if you base your whole 12-month on those 3 months, you are going to fail miserably. I'm serious. During the 3 months, you should be banking money. And you should never have a slow time in your shop. If you're having a slow time in your shop, then you're not making money. And what can you do in between what I call the gold rush, of when everybody's looking to get their machine done? Start bringing in other machines that you have that are in the scrap iron pile, boneyard, and fixing lawnmowers that you could sell in the spring. See, you got to think 12 months. You can't think just those 3 months. Not unless you got 3 months vacation and you can do this and then go back to your other job the rest of the time. But you still have to cover the heat and everything else and the air conditioning 12 months of the year, right? So those bills are still present. So the biggest thing I see is failing to plan. And then the other big thing that I see is having enough money bankrolled to support yourself while you're building that company. That's what you're doing. You're building a company. You're building a brand. And our brand is Northern New York Parts. And then I started a secondary one, My Farm Parts, and that was strictly for the ag side. And we did eBay, Amazon, Walmart, Sears, 2 of our own websites, selling just parts, brand new parts. And I started the secondary account for the ag side because it was too complicated to have ag parts coming from a small engine repair business, a parts business. And the other thing that you don't want to fail to look at is also get yourself set up so that you can do government contracts. I used to sell directly to the Coast Guard, Marines, Navy. The thing is they've got credit cards and they can go up to, I think it's $2,500 before they have to question it. But they want OEM parts. They don't want aftermarket. So if you're going to get into that part of it, it has to be the OEM parts. And now what I'm seeing is a lot of the big brands are getting in there. And like Briggs and Kohler and all them are licensed now through the U.S. government. And that may not be available to you anymore because I know that they were changing it over so that these manufacturers were selecting a business that carried their inventory that was big enough to take care of the closest base to them, if that makes it sound reasonable. We could have sold pallets of stuff to them, but I think theirs was net in 90, so it was 90 days before you got paid. And we had enough coming in off from just the venues and stuff and our own website, so we just kind of, that fell along the wayside. But I still sold a lot, the armed forces, through their credit cards and overnight shipping stuff, especially to the Navy for some reason, and the Coast Guard. They loved their Honda parts, and they had Honda engines and everything else. But failure to plan is the biggest issue I see. And that is to get too grandiose. When you become a business owner, it's not all about you. It's not. The business is about your customers. How are you going to treat them? How well they feel treated. Are you looking for a one-shot deal, or do you want return business? I want return business. And I can tell you right now, it's cheaper, way cheaper, to retain the customers you have than it is to go out and find new. It is. So much. So you want to make damn sure you're taking care of your customers well while you're trying to get more in there. I've known of businesses that would rate their customers, and they must have an endless list of customers that keep coming, because I know in my business, in my repair shop, if I overcharged a customer, I would lose that customer. But if they're part of the process and I'm being more than fair with them, they'll continue to come back. And that's the key, is that if it's going to start getting up there, call your customer and say, look, this is what we have. And this case in point yesterday, all right, we had a Simplicity zero turn come in, okay? And his chief complaint was when he goes into the grass, the mower blades slow down, okay? And with whatever he was doing, he couldn't even get the PTO to work anymore. So those were his two issues. We went ahead and Claude because we found the PTO wasn't even engaging. And he had replaced and put a brand new clutch on it. Instead of bringing it to us, he decided he was going to fix it himself. So he ordered a brand new PTO clutch, got it in, put it in, and it still didn't solve his problems. But then he lost all contact. And the problem is the plugins that he had wired them together instead of where they plugged in. So Claude fixed that. And then he took it around, he mowed the yard, and it mowed good. So talking to the customer, he called yesterday morning. I said, it's all ready to go. He said, you take it out in the tall grass to see if it'll mow. Well, we did it on regular grass, that hasn't been mowed in over a week. No, I want you to go out and try it in really tall grass. Tall grass? So it was raining yesterday, so I told Claude, I said, take it up in the tall grass. I told the customer I'd call him back. And even my lawnmower, I got a John Deere with gator blades on it. And if you find that the hayfield is up top of your ball cap as you're sitting on the lawnmower, you're mowing in too heavy of a grass. That's called getting a brush hog. So Claude said he went up, and sure enough, the belt started slipping, but it was in that really heavy stuff. So I called the customer back and said, look, conventional ground is mowing great. Yes, it was slipping up in the heavier grass, but you shouldn't be mowing that heavier grass. So he said, well, I said, the PTO is working fine. It's your belt slipping. So he said, how much is a new belt? I said, $107 plus an hour's labor. He said, go ahead. See, now I wouldn't have done it because the mower was working fine in conventional grass. Even the spots that I hadn't mowed in 2 weeks, it was mowing. But to do a hayfield, it wasn't doing it. And I'm not even sure a new belt is going to solve that problem. But the customer was involved. He's going to get charged the $100 plus for the belt, plus another $50 to put it on. Even though I explained to him that may not take care of that issue of trying to mow hayfields. But you need to keep the customer involved on those things. You can't just go ahead and put the belt on and then the customer being irate because now the bill is $300 and some later. But I'm going to start wrapping it up for today. It's a bigger subject than just what I can do in one video, okay? So I'll try to follow up with it tomorrow. But keep your day job. Don't make it grandiose to yourself that everything is going to be hunky-dory, because you're going to have problems. You're going to have bad days. You can't base the income based on solely the 3 months that you're hammered. And as I always recommend, start off doing it nights and weekends to see if this is something that you want to do. Because what I can tell you is doing it nights and weekends for slush money versus doing it as a day job and depending upon it for your paycheck are two different animals. But you can carry your customer base over into your new venture. So on that note, you guys have a great Tuesday, and we'll catch you here bright and early tomorrow morning for another episode of The Weekday. Enjoy, guys.